Gunpowder was invented in China, possibly as early as the 9th century, during the Tang dynasty, possibly by alchemists seeking an elixir of immortality. The earliest documented formula for gunpowder dates back to the 11th century, during the Song dynasty, found in the Wujing Zongyang. Initially used in fireworks, fire arrows, and primitive bombs, its military potential was soon realized. European forts evolved from early timber and earthwork structures in the 9th century to elaborate stone castles with defensive walls and towers, eventually incorporating Renaissance-era advancements like bastions and moats. The introduction of cannons in the 14th century led to fortifications with lower profiles, earthworks, and ditches to absorb cannon fire. French forts evolved from simple wooden structures to complex, geometrically designed fortresses, reflecting advancements in military technology and defensive strategies. Early fortifications focused on natural defenses and wooden structures, like moats and baileys, which later evolved into stone castles with bastions and citadels. The introduction of gunpowder and artillery led to the development of more sophisticated designs, including star-shaped fortresses and layered defenses, culminating in the work of Vauban, who perfected the art of fortification with his star fortresses and defensive systems. Simple wooden structures on artificial mounds, surrounded by ditches and palisades, were common in the 9th and 10th centuries. By the 11th and 12th centuries, stone castles with keeps, walls, and towers became more prevalent, offering greater protection against attacks. The 16th century saw the rise of bastions, angled projections built into the walls, to eliminate dead zones and allow for flanking fire. Italian military engineers introduced systematic approaches to fortification, including angled bastions, low walls, and earthen features, which were later adopted and improved by French engineers. Sébastien Le Prestre de Vauban, a renowned military engineer, perfected the star-shaped fortress, characterized by angled bastions, interconnected networks, and layered defenses. Vauban's designs emphasized defense in depth, using multiple lines of fortifications to weaken attacking forces. Vauban strategically positioned his fortresses to control key routes and territories, often incorporating natural features like rivers and hills into his designs. Examples: the fortifications of Vauban, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, include citadels, urban walls, and mountain forts, showcasing the peak of classical fortifications. 19th and 20th centuries. New technologies. The advent of powerful artillery and high-explosive shells led to further adaptations in fortification design. Serre de Rivière system. In the late 19th century, France developed the Serre de Rivière system, which involved moving forts further from cities, creating rings of forts to cover the intervals between them. Concrete and iron. Concrete and reinforced concrete were increasingly used in fortifications, along with the development of armored rotating turrets. Dispersed forts. German theorists proposed dispersing fort artillery and infantry positions, connected by trenches and tunnels, rather than relying on a continuous enceinte. The French colonial empire started in 1524 when an explorer named Verrazano arrived in North America. The first lasting French colony was established in 1605, however. The French colonial empire fell due to a wave of revolutions in the mid-1900s. After the Second World War, France was exhausted and indebted. The French colonial empire lasted from the early 1500s to the mid-1900s. It took different shapes over this period, however. French colonization in the East, particularly in India and Southeast Asia, stemmed from a late but ambitious push by the French monarchy to compete with established colonial powers like the Dutch and British. Driven by the desire for economic gain, particularly access to valuable commodities like spices, and fueled by the prevailing 17th and 18th century European mindset of civilizing other parts of the world, France established trading posts and later territorial claims. Key aspects of the European background. Latecomer to the East. Unlike the Dutch and British, who had established strong presences in the East Indies and India by the early 17th century, France was a relative latecomer. East India Company. King Louis XIV, influenced by his minister Colbert, established the French East India Company in 1664 to compete with other European powers. Economic motives. The primary driver was to secure trade routes and acquire valuable goods like spices, silks, and other luxury items from the East. Colonial competition. France aimed to challenge the existing dominance of the British and Dutch in the Indian Ocean trade and establish its own colonial empire. Civilizing mission. The French, like other European powers, justified their expansion by claiming a duty to civilize the backward peoples of the East, a concept rooted in racism and European exceptionalism. Trading posts and territories. The French established trading posts in India, such as Surat, Mallipatna, and Chandanagar, and later expanded their influence to other parts of Southeast Asia, including Indochina. Limited success. Despite their efforts, the French colonial empire in the East remained smaller and less influential than the British Empire, particularly in India. Persistence in the Indian Ocean. France maintained some territories in the Indian Ocean, including Réunion and Pondicherry. The French colonial empire consisted of the overseas colonies, protectorates, and mandate territories that came under French rule from the 16th century. A French colony comprising 5 geographically separated enclaves on the Indian subcontinent that had initially been factories of the French East India Company. France probably could have become the leading European colonial power in the 17th and 18th centuries. It had the largest population and wealth, the best army. Along with Portugal, Spain and England, France began developing new sea routes from Europe to India and East Asia. The Kingdom of France at the beginning of the 16th century was one of, if not the most powerful nations in Europe. France reached its first peak in the 1700s with New France and expansion in India, despite its late arrival. UK and France still hold overseas territories despite decolonization, including islands in the Caribbean, Pacific, Atlantic, and Mediterranean. Origins of French colonialism in India. The first French venture to India was around the 16th century when expeditions were sent to India for trade purposes. The Middle East and North Africa were central regions in the history of modern French colonialism. France's second colonial empire was founded in Algeria in 1830. The French colonial empire was vast. During its first phase, France established colonies in North America and expanded its trade influence in India. These are results for rise and fall of French colonial empire in India. The rise and fall of French East India Company. History of India. The French colonial empire in India rose due to the establishment of the French East India Company and its trading posts, but ultimately declined due to rivalry with the British and military defeats. While the Treaty of Paris in 1763 marked the end of French colonial rule, they retained a few territories until 1954. Rise. Early presence. The French East India Company was established in 1664, and they set up trading posts in Surat 1668 and Pondicherry 1674. Expansion. The French expanded their influence by establishing settlements and factories along the Indian coast, including Pondicherry, Karaikal, Mahé, Yanam, and Chandanagar. Carnatic Wars. The French and British East India Companies clashed in a series of conflicts known as the Carnatic Wars, 1746–1763, for dominance in India, with the French initially gaining ground. Fall. British dominance. The British East India Company, with greater resources and naval power, eventually gained the upper hand. Treaty of Paris, 1763. This treaty concluded the 7 Years' War and forced France to cede most of its Indian territories to Britain. Continued presence. Despite the treaty, France retained a few enclaves like Pondicherry, which were eventually transferred to India in 1954. Final transfer. France officially relinquished its remaining Indian territories in 1954 and 1962, when the French and Indian governments ratified a treaty confirming the transfer. Carnatic Wars 1749–1763. First, Second and Third Carnatic Wars. The Carnatic Wars, 1746–1763, were a series of conflicts in South India between the British and French East India Companies, with the French initially gaining the upper hand. These wars were driven by European rivalry and competition for control over trade and territory in India. Ultimately, the British emerged as the dominant colonial power, significantly shaping the future of British rule in India. The Carnatic Wars were part of a larger global power struggle between Britain and France, which extended to their colonial interests in India. Initial French success. The French, under leaders like Dupleix, initially achieved notable victories, including the capture of Madras. Shifting power. The British, through strategic alliances with Indian rulers and military successes, gradually gained the upper hand. Key battles. The Battle of Adyar during the First Carnatic War on October 24, 1746, highlighted the military superiority of European forces over Indian armies. End of French ambitions. The Third Carnatic War, particularly the Battle of Wandiwash, the 22nd of January 1760, marked a turning point, leading to the decline of French influence and the consolidation of British power. Long-term impact. The Carnatic Wars paved the way for the British East India Company's dominance and the eventual establishment of British colonial rule in India. Tippu Sultan, ruler of Mysore, military campaigns and wars. Tippu Sultan, also known as the Tiger of Mysore, was a prominent figure in the Anglo-Mysore Wars, a series of conflicts between the British East India Company and the Kingdom of Mysore. The Carnatic Wars primarily involved the British and French East India Companies, while the Anglo-Mysore Wars involved the British and the Kingdom of Mysore. Tippu actively participated in these expansionist wars of Mysore, alongside his father, Hyder Ali, and later as the ruler of Mysore. Tippu's military prowess was evident in battles like the Battle of Polilur, where he defeated the British forces. Tippu Sultan's role in the Anglo-Mysore Wars. Early involvement. Tippu Sultan gained military experience from a young age, participating in campaigns with his father, Hyder Ali, including the invasion of Malabar in 1766. First Anglo-Mysore War, 1767–1769. Tippu fought alongside his father against the British and their allies, demonstrating his military and diplomatic skills. Second Anglo-Mysore War, 1780–1784. Tippu achieved a significant victory at the Battle of Polilur, where he defeated Colonel William Bailey's forces. Third Anglo-Mysore War, 1790–1792. Tippu faced the British again, eventually losing half of his dominion in the Treaty of Seringapatam. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, 1799. Tippu Sultan was ultimately defeated and killed in the final war, marking the end of Mysore's independence. Key events and battles. Battle of Polilur, a notable victory for Tippu Sultan, where he inflicted heavy casualties on the British forces. Treaty of Mangalore, signed in 1784, this treaty ended the Second Anglo-Mysore War, with both sides agreeing to restore territories. Treaty of Seringapatam concluded the Third Anglo-Mysore War, forcing Tippu to cede significant territories to the British. Siege of Seringapatam, the final battle where Tippu Sultan was killed, and Mysore came under British control. Tippu Sultan's legacy. Tippu Sultan is remembered for his military leadership, innovative use of rockets in warfare, and his resistance against the British. He modernized the Mysore army and introduced various administrative reforms. His conflicts with the British East India Company significantly shaped the political landscape of South India. Sultan Hyder Ali, Al-e-Kitab al-e-Sayyid Abdullah Shah Ghazi Hyder Ali and Tippu Sultan, rulers of the Kingdom of Mysore, had a complex relationship with the French, particularly during the Anglo-Mysore Wars. Initially, Hyder Ali forged an alliance with the French, utilizing their expertise in military technology and even employing French workmen in his arsenal. Tippu Sultan, Hyder Ali's son and successor, continued this alliance, seeking French support in his conflicts with the British East India Company. However, the evolving political landscape in Europe, particularly the end of hostilities between France and Britain, often led to shifts in French policy, impacting their support for Mysore. Here's a more detailed look. Hyder Ali and the French. Hyder Ali recognized the growing power of the British and sought alliances to counter them. He allied with the French and employed French engineers and workmen in his army and arsenal. French expertise was particularly valuable in developing Mysore's artillery and military technology. Hyder Ali's alliance with the French played a crucial role in his early successes against the British, particularly in the Second Anglo-Mysore War. Tippu Sultan and the French. Tippu Sultan inherited his father's alliance with the French and continued to seek their support. He recognized the importance of French military technology and sought to modernize his army with their assistance. Tippu also established trade depots in French territories and engaged in diplomatic missions to France. However, the shifting political landscape in Europe often led to a weakening of the French commitment to Mysore. The Treaty of Versailles in 1783, ending hostilities between France and Britain, resulted in the withdrawal of French support for Mysore, impacting Tippu's war efforts. Despite the withdrawal of direct military support, Tippu continued to seek French assistance and diplomatic ties, even sending embassies to France. Ultimately, the French were hesitant to fully commit to an alliance that could jeopardize their own interests in Europe and India. Impact of French involvement. French involvement significantly impacted the Anglo-Mysore Wars, providing Mysore with valuable military expertise and support. However, the changing dynamics of European politics often led to a weakening of the alliance and impacted the course of the wars. The French withdrawal of support forced Tippu Sultan to negotiate peace treaties with the British on unfavorable terms. Despite the challenges, Tippu Sultan's use of French technology, particularly in rocketry, had a lasting impact on military technology, influencing the development of the Congreve rocket, according to Wikipedia. Manjarabad, India's only star-shaped fort designed by French. Manjirabad Fort, located in Karnataka, India, is a unique star-shaped fort designed by Tippu Sultan in 1792. It is the only fort in India with this specific design, inspired by the French star-shaped fort designs popularized by Sébastien Le Prestre de Vauban. The fort's design, with its arrowhead-shaped bastions, allows for a 360-degree view of the surrounding area, corn coverage, and minimizes blind spots for defending forces. Manjarabad Fort, a star-shaped fortress in Karnataka, India, was built by Tippu Sultan in 1792, with the assistance of French military architects, during a period of conflict with the British East India Company. The fort's design, influenced by French military architecture, was intended to provide strategic defense and surveillance capabilities. Key details. Construction. Built in 1792 by Tippu Sultan, ruler of Mysore. French influence. Designed with the help of French military architects, incorporating star-shaped fortifications that were popular in Europe at the time. Strategic importance. Served as a defensive outpost, offering surveillance and control over the surrounding area. Unique design. The star shape of the fort, specifically an 8-pointed star, is a notable feature, allowing for corn coverage of approaches and minimizing blind spots for artillery. Name origin. Named Manjarabad after the Kannada word Manju, mist, likely due to its location often being shrouded in fog. Historical context. Constructed during a time of conflict between Tippu Sultan and the British East India Company, as well as other regional powers like the Nizam and Marathas who were allied with the British. Manjarabad Fort, Sakalpura, around Mangalore. Manjarabad Fort, built by Tippu Sultan in 1792, served as a strategic military outpost and is a unique example of French military architecture in India. Today, it is a popular tourist attraction, offering historical insights and panoramic views of the surrounding landscape. Military activities. Strategic location. The fort's hilltop location provided a vantage point for monitoring enemy movements, particularly those of the British. Defensive design. Its star-shaped design, incorporating features of French military architecture, was designed to deflect cannon fire and provide overlapping fields of fire. Storage and defense. It served as a storage facility for ammunition and other military supplies, and its design was intended to protect Tippu Sultan's forces. One-level structure. Unlike many forts with multiple levels, Manjarabad Fort is a single-level structure, which is unusual for its time. Present-day state. Tourist attraction. The fort is now a popular tourist destination, attracting visitors interested in its history, architecture, and scenic views. Accessibility. Located on the Bangalore-Mangalore highway, it is easily accessible to visitors. Preservation. The fort is well maintained, allowing visitors to explore its ramparts, passageways, and other structures. No entry fee. There is no entry fee to visit the fort. Opening hours. It is open daily from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Misty Manjarabad Fort. Manjarabad Fort, a star-shaped fort built by Tippu Sultan in 1792, is located in Sakaleshpur, Karnataka. While it is under the jurisdiction of the Archaeological Survey of India (ASI), there have been concerns about its maintenance and upkeep. The fort is known for its unique design, strategic location, and historical significance. Key aspects of Manjarabad Fort. Star-shaped design. The fort's 8-pointed star shape, inspired by French military architect Vauban, was designed to deflect cannon fire and provide a 360-degree view of the surrounding area. Historical significance. Built by Tippu Sultan, the fort played a role in the military history of the region and is a testament to his architectural and strategic vision. Location. Situated at a height of 988 meters (3,241 feet) above sea level, the fort offers stunning views of the Western Ghats and the surrounding landscape. ASI's role. The ASI is responsible for the fort's maintenance and preservation, but there have been reports of neglect, including overgrown vegetation, trash, and crumbling walls. Deccan Herald 2023 News. Maintenance issues. Despite being under ASI's care, the fort has reportedly faced challenges with regular upkeep, leading to concerns about its long-term preservation. Tourist attraction. Manjarabad Fort is a popular tourist destination in Karnataka, attracting visitors interested in history, architecture, and scenic views.